Page 33. The speaker's ideas just didn't come across. The president came across the room and shook my hand. The farmer dreams of coming across gold in his field. John came across as rather a nervous man. You can't cut across someone's front yard like that. The reduction in the number of regular staff cuts across most industries. His point got across very clearly to the people listening. You must get your point across in just a few words. I tried and tried, but couldn't put my ideas across. I ran across an old friend in the middle of town today. Page 35. Whatever happens, I will never go against you. Bide your time, Bob. Going against the enemy now is unwise. I was shocked when the judgment went against me. Relax. I have nothing against joining you. Don't worry. I won't hold your behavior against you. It was you who set my sons against me. The flower arrangement was set against ivory wallpaper. Why don't you try setting the minuses against the pluses? I am sure that we can set these expenses against tax. Phil seems to have taken against me. I didn't expect you to turn against me. I don't know who has turned you against me. Page 37. You can bring along anyone you wish to the party. Come along, we have no time to waste. Come along. I have no time to spare, so please hurry. I don't mind if I do come along with you. Jack's Japanese is coming along nicely. An old man with a rucksack came along the road. Well, I must now be getting along. How are you getting along in your studies? Can we get along on such a small salary? I can't get along without you. Bill and I cannot get along with each other. What about going along to the jazz concert tonight? Page 39. Everyone is going, so I'll go along too. How is everything going along with you? I will go along with anything the two of you decide on. Go along this road, and you will see it on your right. Move along, the policeman shouted. The plan was moving along nicely till disaster struck. We moved along the narrow path with care and caution. Just run along and leave the two of us alone. She went to the meeting and took along her baby with her. Page 41. I brought Meg around to my way of thinking. I brought Meg around to my point of view. A couple of sharp slaps on the face brought him around. You are all dressed up, Meg. Is someone coming around? I wish Christmas came around more than once a year. Doctor, the patient is coming around now. I can never come around to your way of looking at things. Word got around that the two stars were going to get married. You should get around a bit when you are young. It was impossible to get around the restrictions. Peter seems to have the knack of getting around anyone. I hope to get around to answering your letter very soon. My mother went around the room looking for dust. Page 43. There is not enough food here to go around everyone. There was a nasty strain of flu going around the school. I succeeded in going round all the obstacles. The car went around the bend on 2 wheels. It's not a good idea to go around barefoot. You mustn't go around being rude to people. What about going around to Sally's tonight? You have been going around with some strange people. Don't look around like that. There's a man following us. She has been looking around for a new job. Page 45. Why on earth are you looking around like that? I know you're nervous, but don't move around like that. The maid always moves my ornaments around. The company moves my husband around a lot. The doctor says that he is sure that Bill will pull around. Her skillful nursing pulled him around very quickly. I was really tired because my wife pulled me around from shop to shop. I spent the day running around doing errands. When the fire started, everyone started running around the house. Mary has been running around with a bad lot. Page 47. You are sitting around the office, doing nothing. Would you mind sticking around for a little while? When you come to Rome, I'll take you around the shops. We spent all afternoon talking around the subject. I talked the committee around to my point of view. She started throwing things around the room in anger. She turned around and spoke to the person behind. You can't just turn around and scold me for it. Everyone hopes that the economy will turn around soon. Turn this sentence around by making the object the subject. The government is trying to turn the economy around. The earth turns around the sun. Page 49. The dog came at me, so I jumped up into a tree. The questions came at him from all directions like machine gun fire. That cup is too high. I can't get at it. I see the point you are getting at. Why are you always getting at me? Give him a problem, and he will go at it till he solves it. Your Japanese will improve if you keep at it. I kept him at the job till he got used to it. You should look at me when I'm talking to you. Doctor, I would like you to look at this swelling here. I wish you would look at the problem more carefully. Eat your food properly. Stop picking at it. Page 51. I felt a hand pulling at my sleeve. The professor stood there silently, pulling at his pipe. The art expert put the cost of the painting at $1 million. Her English seems to have stuck at the same level. Once you start something, you should stick at it. He will stick at nothing to achieve his ambitions. Please converse with me. Don't talk at me. If you want to learn English, you have to work at it. Page 53. Come away. It's dangerous there. I came away from the party with a lot of presents. The handle just came away in my hand. I came away with a very good impression. The surgeon cut away the dead tissue. Society cannot do away with crime. The government did away with several opposition figures. I didn't get away from the office before midnight. I was lucky to get away from the disaster. You must get away from the old ways of thinking if you want to make progress. I was lucky to get away with a fine. The thief tried to get away with 3 Picassos. Page 55. It's not possible to get away with such behavior. Your actions, rather than words, gave away our secret. The old lady gave all her money away to those rascals. Her uncle will give her away at the wedding. You gave yourself away by the way you blushed. Why don't you go away and leave me alone? The pain in my arm still hasn't gone away. You seem to be keeping away from me these days. Keep this plastic bowl away from the fire. Eat plenty of fresh vegetables and try to keep away from oily fast food. Page 57. The robber made away with our silver candlesticks. The gang is said to have made away with him. The disappointed lover made away with himself. Why do you always try to move away when I come near you? Tom no longer lives here. He moved away last year. I reluctantly moved my hand away from the cake. I have been moving away from that way of doing things. She gave me a look of disgust and pulled away. As the car pulled away, a cloud of dust rose up. The plastic covering pulled away from the wood underneath. Page 59. She firmly pulled his hands away from her face. Put your things away tidily after finishing with them. They say that Harry puts away $50 every month. He put away a whole turkey by himself. The soldiers put away their wounded comrades. The judge is likely to put her away for at least a couple of years. At just the sight of me, she ran away. Running away from a problem seldom solves it. Bill ran away with his childhood sweetheart. In situations such as these, don't let your emotions run away with you. And finally, take this number away from this one. The welfare authorities took him away from his family. Page 61. The beautiful sunset took my breath away. Call the maid and ask her to take away the dishes. The music took away from my enjoyment of the film. My uncle could talk away for hours. You are not allowed to throw away rubbish here. You've gone and thrown away my diamond ring. How silly of you to throw away a golden opportunity. Why did you throw your money away on such a purchase? The security men turned the crowds away from the hall. It is difficult to turn away from temptation. Working away at this all day will give me a headache. Page 63. We came by your house just to say good luck. You were lucky to come by such a find. During the war, it was not easy to get by. Can you get by with just knowing English a little? We certainly can't get by that obstacle in this car. The years went by so quickly that I hardly noticed. You should let that kind of remark go by you. It will be much easier if you go by the instructions. One should always lay by a little bit for a rainy day. Put this by for now. We'll use it later on. Page 65. They just sat by and did nothing during the bank robbery. You stood by and just let the disaster occur. The rescue team is standing by, ready to go into action. She stood by her husband in times of trouble. He is a man to stand by his convictions. Don't worry, I will stick by you through thick and thin. These are words that I wrote 10 years ago, but I still stick by them. Page 67. She can bring down a fast-moving rabbit with her gun. A few brave men and women brought down the ruler. I think this shop should bring down prices by about 10%. That kind of comment will bring you down to her level. I hear that John is coming down from Scotland. Our old oak tree came down in last night's storm. No one knows where the plane came down. Land prices look as if they will come down. Word has come down that the project will be cancelled. The judges came down in favour of the French gymnast. The boys came down the hill at great speed. This story has come down to us from the old days. Page 69. In the end, it always comes down to money. My boss came down on me very harshly. Bill has come down with a bad case of measles. Please cut down the bushes at the end of the garden. I tried to cut down the consumption of electricity, gas, and water in my house. You are spending too much. Try to cut down on personnel. I hate the kind of man who tries to do his colleagues down. We got down as soon as the enemy started shooting. The patient had difficulty getting solid food down. This gloomy weather gets me down. The reporters got down the minister's words. It's late. I must get down to my homework. Page 71. We are all going down to the south coast for the holidays. He went down on his hands and knees and apologized. The sun goes down at about 6 or so. They say the plane went down in the mountains. My fever has gone down. I tried to swallow, but the pill wouldn't go down. This path goes all the way down to the main road. Those jokes in your speech did not go down very well with the audience. Much of what Churchill said has gone down in writing. Page 73. Our computers have gone down, so we are helpless. We went down 5-3 to the visiting team. Go down this hill and you will come to a fork in the road. Mr. What's-his-name won't go down as a great president. Meg went down with a cold. It took 4 men to hold down the lunatic. The rich held down the poorer classes. I could not hold down the stewed sheep's eyes. He is one of those people who cannot hold down a job. The president is trying to hold down wages. Page 75. Keep down, otherwise the enemy will shoot you. Keep your heads down when going through this low doorway. The warrior class kept down everyone else. These days I can't keep down solid food. Please try to keep the noise down. The government could not keep unemployment down. I gently laid the ancient manuscript down. The workers laid down the road in a single morning. The law clearly lays down what you must do in such a case. Young wine like this should be laid down for a few years. These deposits of coal were laid down millions of years ago. He is a hero who laid down his life for our country. Page 77. He laid himself down on the grass and looked up. She looked down at the floor. His silly behavior causes others to look down on him. I hear that Smith has moved down to Florida. She moved down a class because her grades were bad. We saw the sheet of flame moving down the hillside. The teacher moved us down to the next lower class. She pulled down her sleeve to cover the scar on her arm. The government will pull down some of the old buildings. The unkindness of others is really pulling me down. With tips and all, a waitress can pull down quite a bit of money. Please put that glass down and come and help me. Page 79. We are going to put down a lawn where there is now earth. The gardener put some rat poison down in the garden. Will you please put down my name on this list as well? The salesman asked me to put down a deposit of $200 on it. The government used force to put down the uprising. Please don't put me down in front of everyone. The dog was old and blind, so I had to ask the vet to put him down. We put her down as being rude and unhelpful. The doctors didn't know what to put his illness down to. The battery has almost run down. Make sure that the stock does not run down. A speeding truck ran him down as he was crossing the road. Page 81. Be positive. Don't always run yourself down. At this time of the year, we run down our stock. I finally ran the book down in an old bookshop. The coach ran his eyes down the list of runners. A helicopter set down on the roof of the skyscraper. Set your things down in that corner over there. The bus set me down in front of the main gate. The dying man asked his son to set down his last wishes. Many of the points you raise have been set down in law. I set him down as being a nice fellow. Page 83. My father set his success down to hard work. Just sit down here and be quiet. We need to sit down and talk about the matter. Oh, how I'd love to sit myself down for a minute or so. No sooner had we come in than the teacher sat us down. He stood down as a candidate for the president of the party. Give the men the order to stand down, the general said. Lend me some glue so I can stick the cardboard down. During the exam, I stuck down the first answer that I thought of. I am too short to take those books down from the shelf. We took down the tent first thing in the morning. It is not necessary to take down everything I say. Page 85. I was the most junior, so they talked me down. The control tower talked down the crippled aircraft. Even if I'm your junior, you shouldn't talk down to me. The monkey was picking coconuts and throwing them down to the man below. The soldiers threw down their weapons and surrendered. Eat your food slowly and enjoy it. Don't throw it down. We literally threw ourselves down on the ground. It's not cold, so you can turn down the collar of your overcoat. Would you mind turning down your television? The circumstances caused me to turn down his request. Page 87. It's a matter of time before the police come for you. Tonight the soap will have to do for shampoo. I can assure you that you and your pals are done for. If that is what you want, you should go for it. The tiger went straight for the deer's jugular. Tom seems to go for older women. Tim has a lot going for him. Looks, money, everything. The Asian economy is in bad shape. The same goes for the European economy. Peter made for a seat far from the door. Lack of mutual respect makes for an unhappy marriage. Bob and Mary are made for each other. We are all pulling for the school team to win the game. Page 89. Do you feel nervous about sitting for the exam? She sat for Picasso on one occasion. I will not stand for that kind of behavior in company. What does BBC stand for? The students in this class come from many countries. Does bi in bicycle come from Latin? Most of your problems come from drinking too much. When I saw the old man being attacked, I could not keep from going to his defense. We kept John from acting rashly. We made every effort to keep the secret from the enemy. Sake is made from rice. Page 91. The government is going to bring in some new tax laws. I would like to bring in one point, if I may. I am looking for an easy job that brings in money. Many shops assume that a busy street will bring in many customers. I will bring Bob in on the investigation. It is likely that the jury will bring in a guilty verdict. Your guest is outside. Shall I ask him to come in? Do you mind if I come in on your discussion? This project requires skill with the hands. Here's where he comes in. You are late again today. Try to come in before 10. What is the name of that runner who came in first? Fashion magazines say long skirts will come in again. Page 93. You never know when a penknife will come in handy. It's natural that you should come in for criticism. You always come and cut in on us. I'll cut you in on some of the profits. The rush to the station completely did me in. The mafia did in several of their enemies. The unhappy man did himself in. The fans were fighting to get in to see their idol. What time will your husband get in from work? What time does the train get in? I wonder which party will get in at the next election. This car is small, so lower your head when getting in. Page 95. Let's get in the washing before it starts raining. We've got to get in some food for lunch, too. Everyone was talking at once, so I could not get my question in. We got in some tennis practice this morning. I got in on the stock market at the beginning of the bubble. If you want to do business in this town, you have to get in with the right people. Whatever you say, I will never give in to you. Some students give in their homework several days early. Let's go in and have a soft drink. I felt a little chilly as the sun went in. No matter how many times the teacher explained, nothing went in. She goes in for necklaces pendants and earrings. Page 97. If I were good enough, I would go in for the contest. John says he wants to go in for medicine. It's for you to decide whether to go in with John. He needs a girdle to hold in his stomach. I could no longer hold in my rage. Keep in when you are cycling, otherwise a car will hit you. The hospital kept me in overnight for further tests. You have been naughty boys, so I'm going to keep you in. You should keep in with influential politicians. All the inhabitants are laying in provisions. So you've bought a new house. When are you moving in? The gang of bullies moved in on little Henry. Page 99. The doors opened after the train pulled in to the station. The new sign outside has pulled in a lot of customers. We pulled in a lot of money from that job. The luxury liner put into New York for repairs. When is the man coming to put in the air conditioner? If I may, can I put in a remark here? Make sure you put in your order before 9 o'clock. You are expected to put in more effort than last time. I've already put the milk in the glass. Putting a man in a uniform does not make him a soldier. We put all our hopes in our only child. Your request has put me in rather a difficult position. Page 101. Paul is said to have put in for the job of director. I do not want to put any of my students in for the exam. I see many fine qualities in your son. A feeling of disaster set in among the passengers. The jeweller set the rubies and emeralds in the crown. Please sit in on our next meeting in an advisory capacity. I am very busy. Do you mind standing in for me? The nail was old and rusty, but it stuck in the wood. The event yesterday will stick in the memory of everyone. When I stuck my hand in the basket, a snake bit it. Even if you are not sure, stick something in this column. I spent my time sticking old family photos in the album. Page 103. You should take in a deep breath. Would you please take in the newspapers? How many calories should one take in per day? I read the book, but couldn't take in the meaning. Our property takes in that wood over there by the river. May I take you in to dinner? I would like to take him in to our company. My car is making a funny noise. I'm going to take it in. The police have already taken the suspect in. I want you to take in this dress around the waist. What about taking in a movie tonight? I won't be taken in by a young fellow like you. Page 105. They had to throw in more soldiers to quell the disturbance. Socrates threw in a word or two now and then. He paid 2 million yen for the car with the spares thrown in. Without even arresting us, the police just threw us in jail. It's high time we turned in. It's way past midnight. The teacher won't mind if we turn in our homework late. It's only $5. There's no point turning it in. The product turned in good results, even with a stagnant market. Now slowly work the butter into the mixture. Bill worked sly remarks into his conversation. Page 107. She wanted to bring him into our group. Why did you bring such a man into the discussion? The girl came into the room to kiss Mummy good night. We would like you to come into our discussion. She came into her inheritance, and then he married her. A ghostly-looking ship came into sight. No one knows when the first organism came into existence. Maybe luck doesn't really come into it. I do not know how Billy got into the attic. What time do we get into Narita? Get into your pajamas as quickly as possible. I do not want to get into this kind of argument. Page 109. I want to get into advertising. I want to get into politics. You seem to have got into the habit of interrupting me. Ben started being a bit strange after he got into astrology. He got into the situation because of his rashness. I got myself into a real fix because of my carelessness. His stupidity got him into the situation. There's a no entry sign. I can't go into the hall. There is no way this suit can go into that suitcase. A lot of hard work went into developing the new car. It's an important matter, so please go into details. She went into business to make a lot of money. Tom went into a long, incomprehensible explanation. Page 111. The company went into liquidation. 8 goes into 40 5 times. The riot police vigorously laid into the demonstrators. He laid into me with a string of insults. Find someone to look into the problem. I shortened the sleeves and made this into a t-shirt. His journey round the world made Tom into a new man. Moving into our new house was very tiring work. Some gangsters are moving into heroin and cocaine. Let's pull into that parking place over there. Page 113. The international situation pulled our country into war. Unfortunately, our car ran into a hedge. Wait here for a couple of hours. You may run into him. As a protest, they ran into the room, completely naked. Plan before starting. If not, you'll run into trouble. The cost of repairing the bridge ran into hundreds of millions of dollars. I will see you safely into your house. The monkey took the whole apple into its mouth. A sinister-looking man took him into a dark room. My uncle took me into the family business. The boss talked me into doing overtime on Friday evening. He finally talked himself into doing nothing. Page 115. Throw everything you don't need into this corner. We have no idea why the authorities threw us into prison. We have no idea why the authorities threw us into jail. We threw our energy into reinforcing the dike. I was thrown into a panic by the sight of the traffic accident. I had no alternative but to throw myself into the task. Cinderella's carriage turned into a pumpkin. The witch turned her into stone. Page 117. I fear that nothing will come of this experiment. She is said to come of a very good provincial family. However busy he was always willing to give of his time to help others. When I first met you, I did not know what to make of you. The desk is made of wood. Under the new tax system, the richest people will come off best. I saw Mary coming off the boat. A button came off it as I was putting my shirt on. It was very difficult for him to come off heroin. Cut off the fatty parts and eat the rest. Cutting off supplies to the town made them surrender. I started to express my opinion, but Harry cut me off. Page 119. How lucky you were to get off with just a fine. I tried everything, but couldn't get off to sleep. Please wait a bit. I get off from work in an hour. You are standing on my toe. Get off it. We have to get off the bus at the next stop. Mary says she would like to get some time off from her job. Professor Jones has a tendency to get off the subject. This is an emergency. Get off the phone. These shoes are so tight that I can't get them off. We like to get the children off to school before 8. Every night it's a battle to get the kids off to bed. I wonder how anyone can get off on horse racing. Page 121. The fire gave off a gentle, pleasant heat. Some people naturally give off an air of confidence. She went off to get a drink. Professor White is always going off at a tangent. At the end of the hall, a corridor goes off to the left. The lights flickered once and then went off. I didn't go off to sleep until after midnight. The stew went off rather quickly in the heat. The hand grenade went off just like that. The fire engine arrived soon after the alarm went off. My new plan went off well, despite the opposition. For some reason, I have gone off mic lately. Page 123. Someone seems to have gone off with my pen. Mary went off with a man 20 years younger. In our company, we have Monday off work. I'd really like to have a couple of weeks off from my job at the university. Perhaps the rain will hold off a bit longer. You two escape. I can hold them off for a minute or so. We are trying to hold off making a decision for a while. I hope the rain keeps off so that we can go on the picnic. The gnu could not keep the lions off. The sign clearly says that we must keep off the grass. Page 125. I was ordered to keep off alcohol for a whole month. Please try to keep him off political or religious topics. She told him to lay off, but he kept on criticizing her. Many companies are starting to lay off workers. I managed to make off when no one was looking. The wily thief made off with the jewels. The president got in his car and the motorcade moved off. The motorbike pulled off with a screeching of tires. He pulled off his clothes and jumped into the river. The chances of pulling off a coup are minimal. Page 127. She pulled her gloves off her hands. What's that funny noise? pull off the road for a moment. Could I ask you to put off that light, please? Even if it rains, we will not put off the event. A nasty teacher I had put me off learning languages. Your rudeness is what puts me off you. A side road runs off from the main road further ahead. The rain just ran off the hard surface. This machine runs off electricity. Run off the copies before the meeting starts. The thief grabbed my camera and ran off with it. She ran off with a man 10 years younger than herself. Page 129. It's troublesome to come to the station and see you off. 2 burly men saw me off. Instead of setting off for the mountain now, we should wait a while. The cry of fire set off a panic. A suit like this will set your figure off to advantage. Your remark set him off, and he didn't stop complaining. The terrorists set off the bomb by remote control. Ask the accountant if we can set this off against tax. Our army stood off the enemy for a whole month. The jet rapidly gathered speed and then took off. Page 131. Why did you take yourself off without a single word? The company takes far too much off my salary. I was feeling very tired, so I took Monday off from the office. James Bond had no trouble taking the gun off the man. The doctor has finally taken me off that medicine. We took Bill off that job because he couldn't do it. Please go behind that curtain and take off your clothes. That bus service has been taken off. Tonight's performance is likely to be taken off. The comedian took off several well-known personalities. Page 133. Many people would like to throw off government restrictions. The fox threw the hounds off the scent by crossing a river. The actress casually threw off her mink coat. Take this pill to quickly throw off your cold. This is a special kind of material that throws off light. When I heard his voice, I just turned off. Turn off this road at the next corner and continue. Someone turned the computer off as a prank. That kind of music turns me off. The star doesn't excite me at all. He turns me off. The tenant farmers are working off their debts. Go for a run to work off your frustration. Page 135. A cough can bring on a bad case of bronchitis. The trainer is bringing the new horse on. Your behavior will bring shame on the whole family. He has brought all his trouble on himself by his own foolishness. Come on, try harder. Don't just give up like that. Look at the trees. Winter is definitely coming on. If you feel a cold coming on, you should take some vitamin C. It took a whole week before the electricity came on. His favorite TV program came on 1 hour later today. Your English is coming on very well. The Prime Minister has just come on the line. I came on the old photos while cleaning out the drawer. Page 137. How did you come on such a good idea? I'm happy to say that the patient is coming on fine. Tim has a way of coming on rather too strong. It's getting on. I must leave now. Stop worrying me and get on with your own work. Please be quiet so I can get on with writing this report. Kathy is the sort of person who can get on with most people. You have to work harder than anyone else if you want to get on. The train arrived and I got on it. Professor Davis was anxious to get on the key committees. I do not seem to be able to get these shoes on. The other party is waiting. Hurry and get on the phone. Page 139. I don't like the way he's always getting on at you. The sum paid was getting on for a small fortune. There's no way this company can get on without Paul. Let's go on as far as we can before sunrise. This road does not go on as far as the next town. The fireworks display went on all night. As the years went on, she got more and more attractive. The light goes on automatically when the power fails. Go on. You can make it if you set your mind on it. Go on with your job, and I'll do mine. He went on playing the violin all night. He practiced the piano and went on to practice the violin. Page 141. You always go on about what you are interested in. The lid of the box just would not go on. She went on some kind of medicine that had side effects. Much tax money goes on ecologically unsound projects. There were no clues for the police to go on, so the case was never solved. I don't see how Anne can be so gone on a man like him. The cost is going on for a couple of million yen. He had on an exceedingly vulgar necktie. It's not necessary to have the radio on all the time. Is that true, or are you having me on? Page 143. I have little money on me now. The police had nothing on him that connected him to those other murders. Hold on a moment, please. I will soon be with you. He held on to my arm. You should hold on to your collection of old records. I keep on forgetting the name of the restaurant. I get your point, so please do not keep on about it. Give me a break. Stop keeping on at me. The school lays on buses to take pupils from the station. You don't have to lay the flattery on so thick. I would like to lay stress on the following points. You should never lay the blame on Meg. Page 145. I don't want to lay this on you, but there is no one else that can do this job. When Bill tells a story, he really lays it on. You should look on the problem in my way. I look on her as one of the most intelligent women I've ever known. This area is boring. Can we move on to somewhere else? Now I want to move on to the next point. I wish I could move on from my present position. You shouldn't pick on those who are smaller than you. Pulling on a pair of trousers, I rushed to the door. Page 147. Excuse me, please, but could you put Mr. Bond on for me? You needn't put on your tie till just before the guests arrive. It took my sister an hour just to put on some lipstick. She put on an air of cool indifference. Would you mind if I put on the air conditioning? Do you mind putting something a bit less noisy on? The Dramatic Society will put on a Shakespeare play. I don't think it is too early to put the dinner on. Our hosts put on a first-class meal for us. They are putting on extra trains over this weekend. I don't believe a word you say. You are putting me on. Please put this tablecloth on the table. Page 149. Our school puts emphasis on Christian values. My doctor put me on a complete vegetarian diet. You shouldn't put money on such an outside chance. I don't believe he's angry. He's just putting it on. The railway will not run on much more. Once Liz starts talking, she runs on for hours. Does this heater run on gas? The bigger boys used to set on him almost every morning. When the escapee continued to resist, the police set the dogs on him. She is set on being a pro squash player. Anne has been sitting on that job for 2 whole weeks. There's nothing more boring than sitting on committees. Page 151. This sellotape won't stick on this rough surface. Use this glue to stick that poster on the wall. I need a pin which I can use to stick this map on the wall. It seems that he's really stuck on her. I was stuck on this problem for several hours. Not just anyone can take on a job like this. Her face took on a look of horror, and she screamed for help. Are you willing to take on the champion? He took it on himself to accept the responsibility. I only had time to throw on some shorts and a sweater. His figure threw a shadow on the road. Why do you always throw doubt on what I say? Page 153. The enemy threw themselves on us from their ambush. Please show me how to turn this copier on. She turned on the tap to quench her thirst with water. Music like that turns a lot of people on. He can turn on the charm just like that. I didn't expect you to turn on me in front of everyone. The future of my company turns on the present trade talks. I turned my torch on the man hiding in the corner. Mr. Willis turned a sarcastic smile on me. How long have you been working on that geometry problem? I don't think it will do any good, but try working on him. Page 155. He opened the door and brought me out of the house. They say that Toyota is bringing out a new model. With difficulty, he brought out the words, I love you. Read the poem so that you bring out some emotion. The earthquake brought out the best in the inhabitants. A little bit of salt brings out the taste of an apple. Kindness and understanding are what will bring him out. The shellfish I ate brought me out in a rash. He didn't know that I had seen him coming out of the room. Nothing at all came out of our years of research. His shirt kept on coming out of his trousers. A strange buzzing sound came out of the television. Page 157. The moon should be coming out soon. All secrets are bound to come out sooner or later. My new book is coming out next month. I used the flash so the picture should come out. Stains like that just don't come out. Don't worry, everything will come out okay in the end. He privately came out to me. Everyone came out against me in the meeting. Most farmers will come out for the present government. Our baby has come out in spots, and I am very worried. Japan is coming out of a chronic depression. Betty came out with an unbelievable proposal. Page 159. The engines cut out and the plane lost altitude. Cut out the part of the wood that is rotten. The editor has cut out the bedroom scenes from my novel. We decided to cut Bill out of all our social activities. The new building next door cuts out most of our daylight. The doctor made her cut out alcohol. Stop behaving like that. Cut it out. You aren't cut out for a teacher. His bedroom was done out in a revolting green color. A wicked aunt did him out of all his inheritance. This club is boring. I want to get out of it. You are driving too fast. I want to get out of this car. Page 161. The tiger was able to get out of his cage in some way. Make sure that none of this gets out to the people. We had a hard time getting him out of the country. I knew the answer, but couldn't get the words out. I want you to get the final version out by next week. Try as I did, I couldn't get the coffee stain out. There is no way that you can get out of Sports Day. I really want to get out of the bad habit of smoking. The police could get nothing out of the gangsters. We will get something out of this experience. It's a matter of time before the suspension gives out. I want to give out these small gifts to everyone. Page 163. His eyes gave out a strange, spooky light. If you don't mind, I'm going out to Anne's this evening. My father never lets me go out with boys. I went out of the room because someone called my name. All John's drive and ambition went out of him after his wife died. The lights go out at 10:30 sharp. Our ship can't enter harbour. The tide has gone out. The President's broadcast is going out at 10 tonight. How nice it would be if ties went out of fashion. It's high time you had that tooth out. Now is the time for us to have the matter out. I'll have it out with the person who spread that rumour. Page 165. Our supplies will only hold out for another week or so. We could not hold out against the enemy. It was in friendship that I held out my hand. The gangster held out his knife in front of him. We hold out little hope of there being any survivors. Is it true you are holding out for $1 million a year? Tell me everything. Stop holding out on me. The sign said, "Danger. Keep out." I make it a rule to keep out of bars like that. She wore a hat to keep the sun out of her eyes. Lay the knives and forks out on this table over here. He laid out his ideas for accomplishing the goals. Page 167. The millionaire laid out a lot of money to buy the vase. With one flick of the wrist, Clint laid out the baddie. "Look out," he shouted in a loud voice. "If you tell me what you want, I will try to look it out. It's a wonderful book. You should look out for it." We must make a point of looking out for each other. When your daughter starts living by herself, she will make out all right. I made out the shape of a man behind the bushes. I couldn't make out what she said. Don't make out the check to me, but to the company. They tried to make a fool out of him. Some historians made him out to be a great statesman. Page 169. You have no chance of making out with a woman like Eve. I picked out this ring to send to my girlfriend for her birthday. The old Indian could pick out details in the distance. Picking out the edges in pink would look nice. I can pick out a simple tune on the piano. The car pulled out without any signal. A steam engine pulling out of a station is a romantic sight. We didn't want to take part, so we pulled out of the game. The general had to pull our division out of the battle. The Prime Minister pulled the country out of recession. The ship put out from port as the sun sank down. She put out her hand as if expecting a handshake. Page 171. Make sure you put out the cat before going to bed. My wife put out my work clothes for me. That magnolia tree has put out its flower buds. Isn't it still a bit too early to put out the lights? Double check that you have put out your cigarette. You can either have a local anesthetic or the doctor can put you out altogether. I seem to have put my joint out. The spy put out false information to confuse the enemy. The TV station may put out the show at a different time. I really do apologize for putting you out like this. You always put yourself out for others. We are all put out with your children's behavior. Page 173. Janet ran out of the room just a minute ago. The last drops ran out through a hole in the cup. I'm afraid to say that your passport has run out. We have run out of both food and money. The sheriff ran the gunman out of town. She ran out on him the very day before the wedding. I'll call my secretary and have her see you out. The family saw the war out in a quiet mountain village. Let's buy enough food to see the week out, so we won't have to go shopping again. He set out on his journey with a light heart. Page 175. I set out to master basic verb forms quickly. Before the operation, the surgeon set out his instruments. He set out the details of the investigation. Tonight, let's sit out in the garden and watch the stars. It was a boring class, but I sat it out because I had nothing else to do. Will you be offended if I sit this dance out? He is the kind of man who will stand out in any crowd. If he is wrong, you should stand out against him. The skier hit the sharp root that was sticking out of the snow. A Japanese-style house in New York certainly sticks out. That's what sticks out to me. It's not wise to stick your head out of the window. Page 177. Not many people could stick this job out. The union is going to stick out for its just demands. I would really love to take you out to dinner one evening. Taking a key out of my bag, I put it into the lock. When did you take this book out from the library? I had no cash, so I took out 2,000 yen at the ATM. You can't take out a bank loan unless you have a job. They say that Super Remover will take out coffee stains. The building was completely taken out by a bomb. The music took me out of myself when I was alone. Page 179. You may be angry, but don't take it out on me. You must talk him out of climbing the mountain. A couple of men threw the drunk out of the bar. He was thrown out of the company for sexual harassment. We had little hesitation throwing out Bill's ideas. I will throw out a lot of these old papers. He threw out his arms to protect his face. The flying saucer threw out a clear beam of white light. Bill throws out brilliant ideas. The lawyer turned out to be a thief. It turned out that the lawyer was a thief. Everything turned out very well for the two of them. Only 40% of the population turned out for the election. Only 40% of the population turned out to vote. Page 181. I turned out the laundry basket, looking for my pen. Our guest overstayed his welcome, and I turned him out. Make sure you turn out the gas before going to bed. We turn out brake linings for motorcycles here. All the boys and girls were beautifully turned out. I work out 3 or 4 times a week. Everything worked out perfectly in the end. Work out the answers without using your calculators. The doctor told me to work out an exercise plan and follow it. Ted is a very strange person. I just cannot work him out. Forget about the problem and let it work itself out. My salary worked out to roughly 1,600 yen per hour. Page 183. A lot of slaves were brought over to the United States from Africa. If it is convenient, can we come over now? An old tramp came over to us. The PM's speech did not come over clearly on the radio. A strange feeling of weariness came over me. Your boss came over as a friendly sort of person. The teacher told me to do my term paper over. We have recently done over all the guest rooms. Let's get over to Phil's before it's too late. Your son must get over his feelings of insecurity. We were all glad to hear that you got over your illness. 10 minutes is enough to get the main points over. Page 185. I intend to get my exams over with as soon as possible. I'll give myself over to studying English this holiday. Sunday morning is given over to prayers and meditation. She went over to Mexico by herself. Your series of lectures went over very well indeed. I had to go over that high fence to sneak into the house. I went over what had happened that day in my mind. Let's go over the main points once more. My company went over to a new system of recruiting. We will hold over your point till the next meeting. Don't hold such a small mistake over me. The basement was made over into a kid's room. Page 187. I made the whole of my estate over to my nieces. Move over and let this old gentleman have a seat. That country is moving over to a market economy. The sailing ship moved over the water like a swan. Beggars were picking over the mountain of rubbish. The policeman waved to me to pull over. The police are pulling cars over in their search for the suspect. I had enough time to put over what I wanted to say. Put this cloth over the furniture in order to protect it. Turn off the taps. The bath is just about to run over. Page 189. The minute she saw me, she ran over to me. Our neighbour drove carelessly and ran over my dog. I'll just run over the main points again of what I have been saying. I'll run over the main parts of the ceremony with you. We have seen over several houses, but there are none that we really want to buy. I sat over the report all day long. She sat over her sick child all night. Stop standing over me. You are blocking the light. Bill is such a lazy fellow that you always have to stand over him. She took the cake over to the opposite counter. There was no one who volunteered to take over the job from him. A strong emotion took me over. Page 191. One of the managers took me over the factory. This report is very important, so take a lot of time over it. When you finish with that newspaper, will you throw it over? She threw a blanket over the sleeping figure of her husband. This is so boring. Let's turn over to another channel. Milk and yogurt are two of the items which turn over very quickly in our shop. The baby turned over, but continued sleeping deeply. The engine has begun to turn over really smoothly now. I turned over the card he was touching. She turned his proposal of marriage over in her mind. During the war, factories turned their facilities over to producing weapons. They took him to a back alley and worked him over. Page 193. News came through that he had been found dead on the beach. My working holiday visa has finally come through. The moon came through the clouds like a shining pearl. To get here, I have come through many difficulties. "Come through with the money or else." The liner majestically cut through the waves. There was a very narrow path that cut through the jungle. I need someone to help me cut through all the difficulties. The supplies didn't get through to the refugees. At last I managed to get through to her. I tried to explain, but just couldn't get through to him. Uncle Bill got through the operation safely. Page 195. You're getting through rather a lot of money this month. I managed to get through the first interview and set a date for the second. The bill just managed to get through Parliament. Do you think you can get through that work soon? Her encouragement got him through those first few days. I tried everything, but couldn't seem to get through to her. It's impossible for me to get through with all this work today. My jeans have gone through at the knees. Such an unjust law cannot be allowed to go through. Page 197. To reach the restroom, you have to go through that room. Jill is going through a difficult phase. Everyone went through their warm-up exercises. If there is time, I want to go through the main points. They went through her bag and found a note written in code. Wow! We went through 3 jars of jam in 1 week. The government will not go through with political reform. What are you doing looking through my drawers? If you have time, please look through my proposal. Bill looked straight through me when I met him. Pick through your grandmother's jewelry and see if there is anything you like. The patient was able to pull through his illness. Page 199. The doctors pulled the patient through his illness. The government cannot put through any real tax reform. Could you put me through to Mary? The government succeeded in putting this project through. Please put these vegetables through the blender. Bill unconsciously put his arms through Mary's. I suggest you put the case through the proper channels. The coach put the team members through some hard training. My uncle put me through college. She ran through the crowd. The Seine runs through Paris. A deep melancholy runs through his writing. Page 201. Run through your lines once before the performance. Let's run through the first act again. How could you run through 1,000,000 yen a month? You tell such bad lies that everyone can see through them. I intend to see this project through to the end. I had only 300,000 yen to see me through the 3 months of unemployment. We had to sit through 2 hours of boring music. The schedule is rather a complicated one, so I'm going to take you through it. I need someone to talk through these problems with me. I'm grateful to you. You've talked me through some bad times. This process will take more than 3 months to work through. The teacher told us to work through the problem in pairs. Page 203. She collapsed, but some smelling salts brought her to. He will come to if you splash some water on his face. It suddenly came to me that he was a criminal. Both those pairs of shoes will come to $400. I don't know what the world is coming to. All of my father's property came to me on his death. We got to the summit at sunrise. The way Bill speaks really gets to me. I got to thinking about the old days. Through thick and thin, he held to his opinion. She was holding her Bible tightly to her chest. I am going to hold you to the promise you made yesterday. Page 205. The important thing is to keep to the main point. We decided to keep to our initial plan. After the spanking, the boy kept to his room. Martin was unable to keep the secret to himself. The enemy is nearby. We must look to our defenses. Don't look to me for support. Don't look to me to support you. Would you mind if I pulled this window too? I will put the idea to him, but he will not agree. Every time I scold you, you run to your mother. A housewife's working day can run to 15 hours or so. Paul's taste in TV runs to trashy dramas and game shows. Let's set to. We are way behind schedule. Page 207. After exchanging bitter words, the two of them set to. The snowball he threw at me stuck to the tree. We should not stick to such senseless customs. My wife stuck to me through thick and thin. The penguins took to the water. When did your son take to smoking marijuana? To tell you the truth, I have started to take to you. In the second half of my lecture, I will turn to a different topic. Her laughter turned to horror as she realized that he was the criminal. I turned to her for help because I didn't know what to do. Page 209. Bridge repair comes under the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport. For accounting purposes, damage like this comes under the heading of wear and tear. The Prime Minister came under criticism because of the recent scandal. The Titanic finally went under after hitting an iceberg. We tried to save the company, but it finally went under. I went underwater for a couple of minutes. When you pulled me underwater, you almost drowned me. I hear that you will be working under John Hill. Good luck to you. Page 211. You shouldn't bring up such a topic in front of ladies. I brought up my 2 children on a large farm. Can you bring up the list of the idioms using up? The sight of the dead dog made me bring up my lunch. His casual remark brought her up short. A strange fellow came up to me and said, "Hello." Bill has only recently come up from the country. Something strange came up in conversation the other day. The same problem came up again when I tried to save the document. With Christmas coming up, the holidays are on everyone's mind. The sun has been coming up very late these days. Towards evening, a pleasant breeze came up. Page 213. We came up against many problems, but overcame them. This matter will come up for discussion at tomorrow's meeting. A Picasso like that seldom comes up for sale. Jim will soon be coming up to his retirement age. His answer failed to come up to our expectations. Let me think. I will try to come up with something. I was unable to come up with the money. Do up your flies. I can see your underwear. Please wait a bit. It will take me 5 minutes to do up my hair. He did up an old Californian-style bungalow in the suburbs. I did up the book in pretty paper and gave it to her. Please help me. I can't get up by myself. Page 215. Did you get up early this morning? It was quite cold and the wind was getting up. Will you get me up at 6 o'clock? We are getting up a little farewell party for Donna. Everyone got themselves up in strange clothes for the Christmas party. The kids are always getting up to some kind of mischief. The relatives of the passengers gave up all hope. They say she is giving up her job to have a baby. I can't get my wife to give up smoking. She gladly gave up her seat to the old woman on the bus. She had been going out with him for 2 years, but gave him up last month. The press gave the explorers up for lost. Page 217. Mary gave up the whole of the morning to help me. I have really tried, but now I have to give up on you. The spy gave himself up when he realized that he could not avoid capture. She gave herself up to despair. The curtain slowly went up and the play started. I boldly went up to the old man and introduced myself. They say that you're going up north today. Prices move in one direction. They just go up. My offer is generous. I cannot go up any further. He went up to Oxford in 1956. The new skyscraper is even now going up. I came out of the movie before the lights went up. Page 219. The tanker went up when a missile hit it. A cry of encouragement went up from the onlookers. We go up against the strongest team in the tournament. Your argument holds up very well. He held up the book and asked his students if everyone had read it. The beams that were holding up the roof were all rotten. What on earth is holding up the proposal I submitted? The gang of robbers held up a bank and escaped with a few $1,000s. Sweden has been held up as a model of the welfare state. I hope this good weather keeps up until the weekend. The pace is so fast that I can't keep up with the others. Since I left high school, I have kept up with only a few friends. Page 221. I found it very difficult keeping up a conversation with the person next to me. My French used to be good, but I have not kept it up. The barking of a dog kept me up all night. A bad case of the flu laid me up for 3 whole weeks. We must lay up food for emergencies. This boat has been laid up for a number of years. I was laid up for a week with chickenpox. You should at least look up when you are spoken to. According to reports, the situation is looking up. You should look up that information in an encyclopedia. If you are in Paris, please look us up. I look up to you more than anyone else. Page 223. This is one of the towns making up the metropolitan area. Can you make up a picnic lunch by 11:30? I'll make up a bed on the couch. I think it is a story that you made up. You are expected to make up the money that you pocketed. My wife takes ages to make herself up in the morning. Come on, let's kiss and make it up. Can a nucleus be made up of neutrons only? There is no way she can make up for her behavior. I apologize. I will try to make it up to you. I have no idea why she was making up to me. Salaries are certainly not moving up in relative terms. Page 225. Despite the penalty, he moved up to 8th place. Would you mind moving up a bit? Then I can sit here. The goat easily moved up the rock face. The president insisted that the economy was picking up. He is not strong enough to pick that heavy suitcase up. I saw John waiting for a bus, so I stopped my car and picked him up. Could you pick me up at my house at 10? You should try to make friends with women instead of always trying to pick them up. With this shortwave radio, I can pick up Rio and Buenos Aires. If you can speak French, it will not take you long to pick up Spanish. Luckily, the computer picked up the mistake I had made. I want to pick up my introduction from where I left off last week. Page 227. Picking himself up, he angrily left the room. We didn't at first pick up on what she said. Let me pick up on a point she made a little earlier. I did not hesitate to pick Tom up on his sexist comment. He seems to just pick up with anyone. Pull up next to that convenience store over there. Several Asian countries are pulling up to our level. Pull up these weeds over here, please. Pull up a chair and join our discussion. You have no right to pull me up on this like that. It's rather a long drive home. Would you mind if I put up at your place tonight? Put up your hand if you know the answer. Page 229. If you are cold, why don't you put your collar up? They seemed to put up that house in a few weeks. Our shop can no longer avoid putting up prices. The population put up no resistance to the occupiers. Everyone is expected to put up 1,000,000 yen. If you're in town, we will put you up for a night or two. The teacher found out who had put Tim up to the trick. I had no choice but to put up with his rude behavior. My fans ran up to me and asked for my autograph. This path here runs all the way up to that old house on the hill. Page 231. It's amazing how a lizard can run up a wall. We ran up a large bill at the Italian restaurant last night. I know a dressmaker who will soon run you up a dress. Don't be surprised if you run up against problems. They are setting up ugly warning signs around here. The government is setting up still another committee. To set up a business, a lot of capital is necessary. They were busy setting up next week's festival. His actions set up an unfortunate series of events. The police sometimes set people up. Stop slouching in your chair. Sit up properly. If you sit up late tonight, you will not be able to do your work properly tomorrow. Page 233. Ha! That news made you sit up and take notice. You should stand up when the president enters the room. The plot won't stand up to close examination. My boyfriend stood me up and will not apologize. You should stand up for those principles you hold dear. This car can stand up to rough handling. You were the only person to stand up to that big bully. I saw a tall chimney sticking up on the horizon. At the station, there were some men sticking up posters. We are planning to stick up a bank. Do you want to join us? Bill stuck up for me when the others were teasing me. Let's take up our suitcases and leave here quickly. Page 235. This antique table of yours takes up too much space. I would like to take up that point with you now. Well, that's my offer. Please decide whether you want to take it up. You are so stubborn. Why don't you take up a more flexible attitude? You are really silly to have taken up smoking. This plant does not seem to be taking up any water. We should take up a collection on behalf of the widows. If I take up this skirt, it will be too short. I found no one who was willing to take me up on my offer. It's not wise to take up with those youths. Every time the patient eats something, he throws up. We could only throw up our hands in despair. Page 237. I don't understand why you threw up such a good job. The cattle moving across a plain threw up dust clouds. The survivors threw up crude shelters after the earthquake. We invited Bill, but I don't think he will turn up. Turn up your jeans if you want to play on the beach. Would you be so kind as to turn up the volume a bit? The investigation turned up evidence of massive tax evasion. Once you work up the courage to do it, it's easy. My secretary worked my ideas up into a good proposal. I wish I could work myself up to finish that boring job. Stop working yourself up about something so unimportant. I have been working up to asking her to the dance. Page 239. The used computer I bought yesterday came with no warranty. A lot of responsibility comes with being on your own. What did you do with my wig? I could do with a good night's sleep. What you are saying has nothing to do with today's topic. Get with it, Bob. That kind of thing is out of date. If you don't get with it, we will never finish this work. Do you mind if I go with you tonight? It's rumored that Bill is going with Mary. Ill health doesn't necessarily go with poverty. The shirt really goes with your tie. Some Republican senators are going with the Democratic proposal. Page 241. Her face was running with a constant stream of tears. If you stick with me, you won't come to any harm. Those words will always stick with me. You do not have the patience to stick with this job. I was stuck with that boring man all evening. It's reached the stage where she can't do without alcohol. I could have done without all that hassle. The prisoner was made to go without food for 1 week.